Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, here at Cloud Expo in Silicon Valley. We're at the Santa Clara Convention Center. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're following this general session out there on the World Wide Web via SYS-CON TV, we have got the CTO of NaviSite up next. Always a good speaker. Only got 30 minutes. I know he's going to cram it in, so I'm not going to take any of them. Let's give it up for Denis on extending the enterprise IT infrastructure.
Thank you, Jeremy, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Happy to be here. This is our third SYS-CON event, and we're very excited about being here. Just one note about logistics. We do only have 30 minutes as part of this session, and then it does follow on and into lunch. So I am going to try and move very quickly through the presentation, and then at the end I'll notify you and say the time's up. If you're willing to stay and want to stay for questions, I'm also going to try and fit in, though I had not scheduled, I'm going to try and fit in a little demonstration of our application called NaviSite Managed Cloud Services and show you our App Center application. So our topics for today and what we're going to cover, for those of you who don't know about NaviSite, I'll spend a few minutes talking about who NaviSite is. And our theme with the SYS-CON events, we were in the New York and Javits Center, we were in Prague, and we're now here. Our theme has been to relay our experience with enterprise customers as we've moved through time. So we started 2 years ago with this, and we're very, very excited about it. And when we first started out, we set out focused on enterprise customers and their experience with multi-tenant shared utility-like platform. And what we'll talk about today has been our experience to date and what we're finding in the market, what we're finding with our customers, and how we are adapting to it. And then finally, at the end, I'll show you that part about how we are adapting to it. As just a housekeeping note, we are in booth 306. And we have these nice little cards when you get down to booth 306 where we're giving away, I think they're Rolls Royces and Bentleys. So, just find your way down there. There's good cars that we're giving away, and we can tell you all about our managed cloud services while you're down there as well. So, first of all, who are we? Who's NaviSite? We are a public company. We've been public since 1999. We're a small company of about 700 people. We focus on managed cloud services, and the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we try and project ourselves to the market is we think of ourselves as a leader in the revolution to leverage cloud computing and leveraging cloud computing to improve business performance by simplifying and reducing cost. And within that context, we think of ourselves as an extension of our customers' IT enterprise. And that'll become more important as you understand what our service is, what the NaviSite product is. But in general, the profile of the type of the use case and the technology that NaviSite brings to the market, because we're not for burstability, though we can support bursting, we're not designed for bursting, we're not designed for volatility. We're designed for sustained use as an extension of the IT enterprise. If you know anything about us, about 5 years ago, we had a business strategy that was very multi-pronged, where we had colo services and we had an SMB business. We've changed that now, and we started that about 2 years ago, where we are exclusively focused today, all 700 people in the company, every department in the company, on providing cloud-enabled managed services to enterprise customers. So we focus up the complexity ladder, and we focus up the customer size ladder, trying to, again, think about how multi-tenant computing can be used for enterprise customers as a extension of their internal and perhaps in some cases as a replacement of their extant IT capability. So today we position and talk about ourselves as a premier provider of cloud-enabled managed application services, where we run I think everything that's offered by Oracle, so Oracle eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel, than the Microsoft Dynamics products. And we offer them on our cloud platform, so we do it in a kind of a unique way. It's outsourced ERP, but not in a traditional model or pay-by-per-use type approach. We also offer managed hosting services, the legacy of our history for the past 11 years, offering high-touch, high-tech, complex managed hosting services offered in one of our several data centers. And now we offer as a standalone product or as a bundled product underneath either managed application services or managed hosting services, managed cloud. So we do offer cloud as a standalone. Could you do me a favor and start the timer, because I will never figure out when to stop here. Thanks. So our value proposition as we talk to our customers are what you might think for a company like NaviSite, which provides hosting services and IT outsourcing, but with our particular flavor and our bent now focusing on cloud enablement and doing it with multi-tenant shared platform. We really focus on mitigating the complexity so that customers can focus on their core business. And again, we do that by being a leader in the revolution to use multi-tenant cloud services. And in that same vein, we're reducing capital expenditures and operating costs, leading to a real lower, a demonstrably lower total cost of ownership, and as well a better ROI on budget dollars spent on IT services, whether they're in-house or combined with services. And we do pride ourselves in our ability to provide higher quality services because we do innovate, we focus on innovation, we invest in innovation, and we spend our time trying to demonstrate to our customers that we know more about the technology, and as a result, we'll be able to deliver a higher class of service than what they'll be able to deliver internally. We have about 1,400 customers, and we can provide references from just about any single one of them. And we do have concentrations in different verticals, though I will tell you that we do limited marketing into and through those verticals. We're really focused into a profile of a customer as opposed to a vertical market or any particular type of use case. This is our footprint. We are focusing our future growth on our San Jose facility, which is probably about 8 or 10 miles from here on Zanker Road, our Andover facility, which is 30 miles north of Boston, and our London facility, which is in the Docklands, in the East India Dock area, and we have 2 data centers there. And focusing our growth means that that's where we are putting in our cloud nodes and building our cloud services. So our experience with enterprise customers using cloud services, first of all, the drivers, a big observation is no great news. The drivers really haven't changed. Customers are still looking at limited budget, tight, constrained budgets, not wanting to spend a lot of money on CapEx. The evolving complexity and the variation of needs in business units, departments, organizations, just dramatically increasing and considerably changing and providing the complexity challenges that IT enterprises and businesses in general face, and the lack and high cost of compliance and security, a very real and mounting concern facing IT organizations and businesses in general today. Limited staff and the need to be more flexible. There's nothing really new there, perhaps with the exclusion of the compliance and security. But cloud presents a new type of solution, and we've asked ourselves over the past 18 months as we have been talking to our customers and providing services, why now? Why is it now that companies are starting to embrace cloud technologies, embrace the multi-tenant notion, embrace using just what you need to use and paying only for that amount, as opposed to building for peak and having all of this overcommitted resource that is highly underutilized. And these are the reasons that we came out with. First of all, that the hypervisors, particularly those offered by offered by VMware, and the others following behind with Citrix and Microsoft and Oracle, but the maturity of the hypervisors and the security enhancements embedded within them have finally come up to the level of enterprise acceptability. Likewise, the continued improvements in the CPUs, even moving from the G5s to the G6 Nehalem, and what has been built into the G6 Nehalem, and what's on the Intel and AMD roadmap for integrating virtualization capability at the CPU level, support from the enterprise vendors, and those three things in particular, in contrast to the next point, the building for load and the dramatic underutilization and the high cost of building for peak and what that means to enterprise customers. So we have, as a matter of course, for many years, just accepted the fact that it costs a lot of money to build and put in IT services, and as you do, you have to build for peak because you have to have enough capacity for when your heaviest load is, and when you build for that, you're spending a lot of money for nothing. Now that we have very mature hypervisors, we have the support from the vendors. We also have, as the bullet below points out, that we have very dense memory now and the decreasing cost of that memory. The confluence of those things really puts virtualization or cloud computing in a position to meet the needs in an acceptable way of enterprise customers, and we've been seeing that over the 18 months. And probably, the biggest anecdotal note that I can make is, how long ago was it that if someone told you that you'd have a dual socket blade, a 1U blade, that big, a 1U blade with dual sockets and 8 cores and a terabyte of RAM, and you could do that at an affordable price, how long ago would you have said, that's ridiculous? And it wasn't that long ago at all that I said that. So surprised to see that it's there, but these are the points that we're seeing. I won't go through the detail of this, but we at NaviSite, we focus on infrastructure as a service. And we've noticed that cloud computing, as it's being adapted by and adopted by the enterprise customers, is really being viewed as an evolution, and we are there as the revolutionaries to aid in that evolution as they progress along the path toward multi-tenant and software as a service and platform as a service. And enterprises today that understand that shift are realizing benefits now. So to the extent that some of you are out there thinking about, are enterprises using these technologies? Are they deriving benefit? Are they gaining advantage? The answer is an unequivocal yes. And so what they're doing is they're building services that look like this. They're starting to think about, we have our extant applications over here. Our plan for the future, we need to build out a plan for the future. And just about every enterprise that we're talking about is thinking about how do we incorporate public cloud, private cloud, the traditional data center, how do we incorporate it in our environments so that we can leverage the arbitrage of multi-tenancy to lower our cost so we no longer need to build for peak, and we can use capacity as we need it, on demand, make it elastic, and have it usage build. So many of the companies that we're dealing with are building services like this, and depending on the spectrum of who they are, we have a lot of customers that are using cloud computing as an extension to their extant IT infrastructure to do QA, testing, disaster recovery, that type of service, but with the same type of production SLA that you would expect from your typical production environment. And so the typical scenarios that we're seeing, so new initiatives with limited budgets, so they don't want to spend a lot of money. The cloud is a good way to get and do a POC or a proof of concept, do some testing, supply chain management, and do some integration with that. Test dev and QA, hands down, the biggest area where we are seeing use of cloud-based technology. And the one thing that we didn't know that 2 years ago that we really weren't expecting was that's only useful to the enterprise to the extent that you can connect that back to their existing infrastructure. The very, very key point. Fluctuating or unpredictable demand patterns, that's one we all know about volatility. Again, NaviSite's not particularly focused on that, though we do provide that service. So for a steady state customer that has a lot of test dev and some production, if they need services and they need elastic capacity for weeks or days, weeks or months, we have that capacity that's there. And interestingly, a whole range of what I would consider very traditional IT services are now the cloud is being looked at as an alternative to them, and high on the list are backup and disaster recovery. So looking at ways in which we as an enterprise can look at using cloud-enabled services or cloud in general as a way to do disaster recovery and backup of existing systems that heretofore would have been very, very expensive to put in place. And the questions that they ask, public or private, do I build an in-house cloud? Can you private label your version for me and put it in-house? We have some intellectual property that we've built on top, and we get a lot of interest in that. So we have a private label version of our App Center on top of the underlying resource structures, or underlying the raw resources. And if they're thinking about public, which public cloud, and in either case, what are they going to put on it? Is it test, dev, production services? And we have everything. We have customers running their only production services on our cloud platform. Some doing tests, some doing dev, and a lot doing QA along the way. Do I isolate the cloud and leave it as a separate? As I mentioned earlier, this is something that we found that the larger customers doing test dev QA type work, integration is a necessity, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second. User management on the cloud becomes an issue. They want to be able to delegate user security levels, so as they push it out into departments, delegate who can do what and what they can see and how they can act on it. Lots of network-related issues when you get into the integration from the customer premise and so on. And of course, the same thing applies now with backup and disaster recovery as it does with the physical hardware along the way. So, and it's just not cost anymore. So there is a dramatic savings in cost, but some of the other things, and these are the two biggest things that that they're seeing. That customers are telling us, our customers are telling us that it's great to be able to save money, but the single biggest thing that we get out of this cloud service is our business agility. The fact that we can spin up machines or stand up machines in 6 to 10 minutes versus 2 to 4 weeks, and stand up full-blown ERP applications in 3 to 4 weeks as opposed to 3 to 4 months means enormous things to enterprise IT departments, and it really is probably the single biggest thing that we talk about when that customers come back to us. Believe it or not, the cloud, and I don't know if you do believe it, but our experience over 18 months is that the multi-tenant cloud infrastructure with things like HA and DRS from VMware allow us to offer higher SLAs, and our customers in turn getting better services across the board. So security is always a challenge, and our approach has been to think about security as on the cloud the same way that we think about it in the physical world. So in the physical world, we have machines, we have discrete VLAN segments that connect to shared or dedicated firewalls and denying all traversal across them. And provided that you think about that, and we've highlighted down at the bottom that that security is not just a responsibility of the provider, it's also the responsibility of the user, of the customer. If you go at the business of deploying services on either a native cloud or a hybrid cloud, and you have those two underlying thoughts in mind, we found that that all security issues can be addressed. Maybe not to the extent that every customer would like to have, but we can't do that in the physical world either. But we can come pretty darn close to matching on the cloud what we do in the physical world. Just a couple of comments. I wanted to point them out as feedback from our customers. And this is based on the use of the NaviSite Managed Cloud Service in our App Center application on our particular infrastructure, which is geared toward enterprise customers. So the biggest ones are, first is over here, really the time to provision. So the ability to be much more agile, much more nimble, to be able to create faster and do it do it exponentially faster. So if it took 6 weeks, now we're really taking 6 to 10 minutes. And likewise, the next thing for us is the control of the environment. So very much in the vein of what VMware announced with the vDirector product and what other vendors are providing in terms of the virtual data center. What we do is, as part of our service, is give our customers control of the complete virtual data center. And surprisingly, because we are using the latest and greatest technologies, we're seeing better performance, not we, our customers are seeing better performance on our cloud-based hardware than what they're seeing on technology that's even as new as 2 years old. So, good proof points for use of the cloud and cloud in the enterprise. CapEx turning into OpEx, very, very important point. Integration between new and existing environments, probably the single biggest call out here, that NaviSite would, that I would tell you about using cloud services with enterprise customers. And for those of you who are enterprise, our experience and our ability in being able to do that. So let me show you now our application. We've got about 5 more minutes, and I'll quickly go through some slides, and then I'll actually bring up the application. When the 5 minutes are up, I'll tell you so and won't be offended if you want to leave and go eat the food that's waiting for you. But I also will stay and try and squeeze in a few more minutes and show you the application that we have. So we built it using VMware. We are using Cisco's UCS product. We were an early adopter of the UCS platform, and we've been very pleased with it. We do sit on the UCS Customer Advisory Board, so we're right there with the product managers and the business unit leaders. We have the opportunity to provide input and provide the direction that product is taking. We're using IBM XIV SAN, and we're using, not evident on this slide, but we're using HP NAS as well. We have it in 2 data centers. This is our San Jose data center and our Andover data center. And first quarter, second quarter, calendar quarter next year, we'll be putting our node in London. And the idea, the reason why we did these and connected them with the GigE connections was so that we could do the disaster recovery and the backup services, so that if you were running your production, whether it's test dev or your production, and you wanted to have backups here in Andover, that we could do that in a very simple way. And we're using some very straightforward technologies to be able to accommodate that. So the features of our application integrates with custom. We do deal with all of the security and compliance issues. Performance is paramount, so we don't put it out there and say it's cheaper, but it runs terribly. It has to run better than physical hardware. We set as a goal to give complete control of the entirety of the virtual data center. And another value add that we bring is application expertise of our company of 700 people. About 250 are application experts, so we can do things on it. And perhaps singularly in the market, our biggest differentiator is usage-based billing. So we don't bill by the VM. We don't care how many VMs you build, how many you power up, power down, create, delete, or otherwise. We bill you for the raw CPU, so the gigahertz consumed and the gigabytes consumed as well. And we do that as measured as a contemporaneous aggregate 95th percentile. I'm not going to go through the security to save some time, but we are at booth 306, so if you want to talk to any of our solution architects and understand how we deal with security, we do it all the way from the physical security layer all the way up through the application layer, and are working with the Cloud Security Alliance, and had in general thought of building our platform in the same way that we can do PCI DSS on our physical platform. We wanted to be able to do it on our shared platform as well. This is what the application looks like. We give complete control over the virtual data center. So just 2 other slides, and then I'm actually going to show it to you because we'll be approaching the end of the time here. But so we provide complete control over the virtual data center, where if you remember the virtual data center, what I didn't mention is these are VMware. So these are Cisco blades, VMware vSphere. The firewalls are Cisco ASA 5510s, 5520s, and context-based firewalls. And load balancers are the Citrix NetScalers, both physical and the VPXs. So you have complete control over that via this single interface that we provide. And you can see all of the resources that you consume along the way. We also do dynamic resource instrumentation. And again, too detailed to do in 60 seconds, but come down to our booth. And what it is it's a way to optimize your use of the platform so that you're paying for only what you need to use, and you can do prioritization by, and what we do, for those of you familiar with VMware, is we expose shares, limits, and reservation controls at the environment level so that you can prioritize a set of machines over different machines and give them at different load levels, give them varying levels of priority. We've also wrapped around a roles-based access control system so that if you wanted to, within a department or within an organization, be able to push function out into a business unit for them to have access to certain machines, to conduct certain functions on firewalls, et cetera, they'd be able to do that, and be able to do that with security that's permitted by the net effect of a super user or an Uber admin that is designated at the point of setup. So it's now probably right at the end of the session here. I'm going to continue and spend about 10 more minutes showing the application. I won't be offended if anyone leaves, though, because I know the lunch is coming up. But I'm just going to continue on and show the application that we have, and it's called App Center. It's on public address space here, and I'm going to log on to it. And when you log on to it, you come into, and I'll make this a new environment, but you come into it, and it's a completely blank slate. We give you 3 containers to play with within that environment, and those containers are environment. So I can move to one here that I set up yesterday called Cloud West. And in that environment, the 2 levels that you can use are group and subgroup. And you create a subgroup simply by tagging here and say create another group, and I would make this one Apollo 3, and I could create another group up here which might be a department, and I can make that Department A or whatever you want to, however it fits the construct of your use. And we also have drag and drop capabilities where you can move things into the different groups, even move machines into, so you have that sort of very AJAX-heavy drag and drop type function to be able to navigate and move things around. Creating a machine is as simple as clicking here. You can import OVFs, you can bring them in, and I'll make this one test 02, and I will pick we provide templates, or you can provide your own templates. But here I'll pick a Linux template, and you can vary the amount of CPU and the amount of memory. We onboard you with VLANs, and you can have any number of VLANs. We onboard you with VLANs, and I pick here, I have 3. Each VLAN comes with a /24. You pick a backend number, and then you click Create. And then the little candy cane starts running. And by the way, this is real. This is our production system. So I'm sure it'll screw up, but the candy cane starts running, and that indicates here that this machine is being built. While this machine is being built, I can show you other things that we do or services that we've provided. So I can switch environment and now switch to a different environment and show you some of the functions that we have. You can look at these little pull downs here, give us capability on the iPad, so you can do this on the iPad as well. But here you can do things like power all the machines off, because again, remember, you're paying only for the capacity that you use. So while machines are powered off, they're not using any capacity. You can also suspend machines, or this machine is suspended. I can look at the details of this machine, and while it's suspended, I can power it on from within here. I can look at the particulars, and I can also see every job that's being done on it. Machines that are powered off, you can build templates. So in building a template, you can add and build a template. Say, for example, you have an application that you run over and over again, where you're constantly deploying the same application. And so, say I was doing a demo for Sybase, and I hope you're not in the room here, but I was doing a demo for Sybase where they have these 3 different applications here, and they deploy the application over and over and over and over again. So it's each application, each tier, the web, the application, and database, are about 20 steps each to set up. And of those 20, 15 are the same for every customer. So one thing they could do, one thing we provide is a support for templates. So you get it set up to the 15, up to the point where it's 15, and then you say convert that to a template. So that locks the virtual machine so it can't boot. And then the next time a new customer comes along and I need to deploy this application where these machines are set up at step 15, 15, and 15, I can simply say clone these, and it will take all of those machines and spontaneously create genetic clones, 6 to 10 minutes for a Linux base and 6 to about 15 minutes for a Windows 40 to 90 gig image. And here you can see the candy canes running. We're creating those clones. And then what would happen after that, after those are done, is you can log onto those machines, create the completion, have your QA done, expose them to the physical network, and then they're available. Literally taking provisioning time from periods of weeks down to periods of minutes and hours. So that's some of the basic function in the widget and in the Ajax-heavy UI. But going through the other things, we also give you the ability to manage network. And in managing network, you're managing the ASA 5510s and 20s and the context-based firewalls. So here are my 3 VLANs. Out of the box, NaviSite denies everything. So for anything to happen, for any traffic to leave, you have to add a rule. And you can do an any-to-any in here. You can do a permit or deny. You can do it by protocol. And for the sake of expediency and not tying up the whole lunch, I'll not add a rule, but the rules get added here. You can do the same thing with load balancers. And notice the increasing the efficiency of OpEx now. You don't have to go running to the IT department to say, create me a new load balancer. So if I click over to the load balance tab, on my first network, I have a couple of load balancers. I could add a load balancer, and I could pick it from any of the servers that I have created, the protocol I want to load balance, the port, the method, and the some of the persistence issues that we do. And these are things that we do via the exposing things on the via the API on the firewall on the VPX. Okay. And likewise, so you manage the firewalls, you manage the load balancers, and then finally, once everything's up and running and you want to expose it to the public, we do provide public address space, where of course, and this is port based, so you can NAT, a public address space. Our network philosophy is outbound coming in, so you can add a rule so that we're adding on a public port, on a LAN, to an IP number, to a private port, one of the public address numbers that we have that's out there. You can see and manage all of your resources on the Resource tab. And you can, that Resource tab, so here's Cloud West where I just was, and I created Department A, and I think I put that machine in there. Maybe I didn't. There, I put it in there, I think. But I created machines, and we'll go back and see where those machines are. I put it in there. So here are the machines that we're creating, and you can see at any level of the hierarchy, the processing, the memory, the storage, and the bandwidth. Here's the user admin, the roles-based access control. I won't go through it all, but you'll see the idea that you can create approvers, you can manage workflow, you can set up users and create policies. We have an authorization template that looks something like this, whether it's for servers or firewalls or for load balancers, and you get to specify what users can do, and then you set up requirement templates along the way to do that same sort of resource that you did. So let's go back and look at the server that we were creating. I don't know if it'll be completed by now, but we were in the Cloud West environment. So we'll flip over, and here's the machine that we created, Test02. So Test02 has an IP number, a back-end IP number, and we're on public address space here, so we have to grab this IP number, and we go back out to the server tab, and there's only two ways you can get to these machines now. The first way is to create a NAT from the outside and come in through the public network, or we've embedded AnyConnect in here so that you can, with your same credentials, establish a VPN connection to the cloud infrastructure. And while that's creating, I'll minimize this slightly. And I will grab my PuTTY client. And remember here that this is the machine that we're looking at, Test02. And I'll look at the details of it while it's loading. And you can see it's a Linux machine. The client does take, the VPN client takes a second to connect. And then I'll paste in my address. And here's the security that it's looking for. We give default passwords and user IDs. I think I typed that wrong, but default passwords and user IDs so that everybody can come in. And there we are. So in the 6 minutes that I ran through showing you what the application did, we actually provisioned a Red Hat machine. And it's accessible on the back end. I can NAT it to the front end. I can put firewall rules around it. I can put all the pieces around it. So for all of you that stayed with lunch waiting for you, thank you very much. And NaviSite and I appreciate your time. And we're at booth 306 if you'd like any additional information.